Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to Armor of God again. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. And hopefully you'll be edified with what we've put together for you here. Well, recently, I've made a video covering about ghosts. And while it is true that most of the time these ghosts are demons, but on rare occasions there are also souls from purgatory who are asking for prayers. That's the whole point of the video, and I'm saying this based on a lot of exorcists we've listened to before. I would also like to share again from Father Dennis about demonic infestation in a building. But before I share that clip, I'd like to bring your attention to this clip of Father John Szada that I've shared a few months ago.
I'll throw some little stories here and there of things that I've encountered just so that you can see this along the way. I had a call one day from a priest. He said, I have a young man in my parish who just called me and he's panicking. And he said, what happened was this guy had some friends and they said, there's this house that we know of that's supposed to be haunted. And we want to go over there and we want to play with a Ouija board. They want to see if anything happens. So the guy said, okay, I'll go, provided that you get me drunk first. So they did, all right? I suspect he did more than just drink, but that's okay. So they went to this haunted house and they played with the Ouija board. And guess what? It worked. And the demon that was talking to them said, answered their questions, all that kind of stuff. And then the next thing you know, the demon said, don't worry, everything stays here, it's part of the house, nothing will go with you home. Well, demons are liars. So he goes home, and he's under attack physically. He's being attacked in his bed and being attacked in his room, and he doesn't know what to do. He's really scared. He calls his priest. He said, Father, what do I do? The priest calls me and says, what do I do? I said, this was an easy one, because this kid just was stupid. He did a stupid mistake. I said, just tell him to go to confession, and that'll take care of the problem. The single most powerful weapon that we have against the devil is the sacrament of penance. So if you haven't been there for a while, I strongly recommend get there. Because anything that you confess to the priest, is that great secret, the seal of the confessional. The priest can't talk about anything that you tell him in confession. The demons can't know anything that you tell the priest in confession either. That's blocked from their awareness. So when you go to confession, and go often, be full, honest, complete about what it is that you have to confess, because the devil can never use it against you. So the first thing is temptation, all right? We're all under temptation. There's no way to avoid that. The second thing is, I guess you want to call it oppression, where people do stupid things and then they literally open themselves up. And I guess we're going to get to portals in a couple minutes with some of the questions, but I'll get to that, how we do that. But so people open themselves up, and the next thing you know, they're under serious attack. And sometimes it actually happens physically. A person may wake up with scratches. I've had people with hand marks, burn marks that showed up on their bodies, all kinds of different things. The demons will literally attack them. That's demonic oppression. Or another case would be what we call demonic obsession, where a person just gets all these thoughts in their mind and they're just driving them crazy. They can't help it. In fact, one of the things that demons like to do is try to tempt a person to commit suicide. They get so depressed, so discouraged that they just want to kill themselves, And unfortunately, I've lost one by that way. A person did commit suicide because she just couldn't handle what she was under anymore, the attack that she was under anymore. And so it's a really sad kind of thing, because you see, if you commit suicide, the devil wins. But the devil can't kill you. He's not permitted to do that, all right? So if you go to confession, you stay close to the church, stay close to the sacraments, that breaks some of that power that he has over us in terms of temptations and those kinds of things. I had another case I'll tell you about where, again, a young lady was possessed. I'll come to that in a moment. And she had it. She couldn't handle it anymore. She was going to commit suicide. And she decided to go out and hang herself in the tree in the backyard. And as she was heading out the door, she saw a statue of St. Michael the Archangel on the table by the door. And something told her to pick it up and take it along with her. So she did. She went out, put the statue on the ground, put the noose around her neck.
The reason I shared Father Zeta saying people doing stupid things that could open one up to the demonic, because I want us to pay attention to what Father Dennis said at the end of the clip there just now. In short, the demons do not want to a family of faith. I'm sure a lot of you by now have heard the news of Louisiana being the first U.S. state to require 10 commandments displayed in classrooms. And hopefully this is just the start of something.
I was reading a great story about Louisiana earlier today, that the 10 commandments are going to be required in all school classrooms in all of Louisiana public schools. Isn't that something? And the governor there made some comment like, I'm very much looking forward to being sued over this. Like, there's some things that are worthy of taking the heat on, and he believes this is one of them. So good for him. And this Republican governor, his name is Jeff Landry. He signed it into law yesterday. And it requires that a poster-sized display of the 10 Commandments is easily readable and visible in every public classroom, from kindergarten through state-funded universities. So, wow, that's amazing. Good for you, Mr. Landry. May the Lord increase your herd and your tribe. We need to have more people follow suit there. Keep him in your prayers. He's going to be attacked, no doubt, because, there's many people who are not God-fearing nor God-believing. In fact, they're working for the devil. And these devil people, they have big mouths and large microphones, and they like to have their opinions known. So this is going to drive people crazy, but he's doing the right thing. You got to put God first and everything after that, and that's what this guy is doing. So good for him. Used to be that way. In fact, even in Catholic hospitals, we used to have crucifixes in every room, but they don't do that anymore. They don't want to offend people who aren't Christian. Well, that's when you lose your identity. You gotta be who you are. If you're not going to be who you are, you know what you're going to be? Whatever the world defines you as, and that's a loser. So be bold in being Catholic. And not that we're going to be arrogant and stick our faces, in people's way, in a rude way, but be who you are. Jesus said, go out and make disciples of all nations. So we got to do that. And there's so much people working against that right now. You need men and women to step up like this governor and start putting things into law in order to make them go forward. So keep them in your prayers.
For the next clip is from Father Reehil's latest Ask the Exorcist on Radio Maria. Now, if you have the time, please do check Radio Maria out, and you'll learn so much from there. And if you have the means to support financially, please do help Radio Maria out. They're doing such a wonderful job, and I am not in any way affiliated to Radio Maria, but I am more than happy to spread the word about them in whatever way that I can. Anyway, the question that this person is asking Father Reehil, I think a lot of you can relate to here, judging from some of the comments I've read in the past.
Hello, Anna.
Hi, thank you. My brother has looked into our family history, our last name, and he feels, what he said that he came up with is that our family name is cursed in some way, that all the boys that carry the family name will end up having some tragedy or some illness or something to that effect. And I've told him to pray and also to, do certain prayers and to contact you, but he hasn't listened to me.
Where is he?
What can I do?
Where is he?
He's in Miami. And
Okay.
The thing is that he's had a lot of family issues because his wife has Parkinson's, but Parkinson's with something else. And his son is diabetic, and he's had some crises that he almost died. So they lost a daughter, the first child they ever had. They had 4 children. It was a daughter, and she died within 9 days.
Uh-huh.
And that has really affected them. This is 37 years ago, and they have 3 boys, but each one of them has something that it's like some issue. The first one's diabetic. The second one.
All right. So what you want to do is, the first thing I would do is to pray the prayers to break Masonic curses. And those are out there. You can find them online. But is he Catholic?
He hasn't done it. So to
Is he
break
Catholic?
curses, he's Catholic. He's a practicing Catholic.
So he should start with, does he go to church?
Yes, he goes to church.
And he was married in the church.
He was married in the church.
Well,
and
that's what he start
all
with.
The children were baptized.
Yeah, start with the priest. Go to your priest and say, I'm having, it seems like a very almost too statistically, there's so many things happening with our health. It seems like I'm cursed. Can you pray with me? And if the priest doesn't know what to do, you can ask the priest, do you know of a priest who does deliverance prayers, and get to that priest.
Okay, so deliverance prayers.
Yeah,
okay.
And the prayers to break curses.
Okay, I will.
Okay.
I will look it up. Okay,
all right.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling in.
You.
Speaking of Masonic curses, remember this clip of Father Szada talking about it.
There's another situation, for example, and I just have to lay this out there, the Masons, Masonic orders. The Masonic orders are all demonic. We've had many, many cases of people who have been under serious attack, spiritual attack, because of the history of Masonic involvement in their families. And so those things have to be broken as well. There are curses that go along with those, and they have to be broken. So there are portals, there are things that people will do, playing with Ouija boards, all kinds of stuff that people will do. As I said, crystals is one that a lot of kids get into, tarot cards. Here's an interesting one, a case that I knew of, a young girl. Her grandmother used to read tarot cards. And the young girl would just sit on her grandmother's lap, and that was it. The girl grew up, and now she's in college. And some of her college roommates decided they were going to play with these tarot cards, and they get out the little book, and they're going to read the tarot cards to see what the fortunes are and that sort of stuff. When the girl stood there and she said, oh, I know what that is. She said, my grandmother used to do that all the time, and I can tell you exactly what that was. And she read the tarot cards, and boom, she was possessed, fully possessed. The demon came out, and the first things that he said to her, stupid witch, I had to wait in her for 20 years for her to make the first move. As soon as she stepped into the world of the occult, he possessed her. He was there the whole time. But she made the move, and he took advantage of it. So we have to be careful of all of those kinds of things, because they're real, and they do cause problems. So we call these portals. There are many, many different kinds of things out there today that open the door to the demonic.
And before we get to the second half of this video, I'm going to share this clip of Father Dennis again.
Many priests have told me that when they celebrate Mass in the place where a person died, or in the home or where a ghost is present, almost immediately the situation is resolved. There's a great peace that descends upon the family, and the ghost is no longer seen. What does that mean? It means that this soul, this beautiful soul, looking for God alone, who's asked their family for help, has achieved, by God's mercy, the ability to let go of sin through the power of the Mass. By the offering of Eucharist, they are now fed and they drink of the body and blood of Christ mystically, and they are able to move ahead. Some people say to me, Father Dennis, we had the priest over and we were so used to the ghost here, and then all of a sudden the ghost is gone. We said, wow, what did we do wrong? We chased him away. On the contrary, you did everything exactly right. No one who is asking the church militant for help wants to spend eternity asking the church militant for help. The whole idea is to get to heaven. So when Padre Pio says, I will offer Mass for you, and I'm a soul, I say, thank you for this. And would you please pray for me immediately now? I need consolation. I need hope. I need ability to let go. I would do both.
And now for the second part of this video, I'm going to share something from Father Fortea again, and I'll be sharing 4 very good answers from him that hopefully a lot of you will find useful. So the first question is, can a demon cause a false vision in a mystic? And here's Father Fortea's answer. Though angels and demons have the power to infuse visions and locutions in human minds, God rarely permits them to do so. We can see that such visions and locutions would produce great confusion in souls, so God allows them only on very rare occasions and when the person has the means to discover the truth. Of course, if it were not for the Most High restraining the power of demons, they would regularly appear as angels or saints. There have even been reported cases in which a demon has taken the appearance of our Lord himself. In the truly exceptional case of a mystical revelation to a soul of which a spiritual director has his doubts about the demon concerned, there are 2 criteria that can be followed. 1. Follow all inspirations that bring one to good as if they come from God. And number 2. Obey one's spiritual director above any private revelation. If a vision, apparition, or locution causes us to do good, that is, incites us to works of charity, prayer, and sacrifice, we should follow it as if it came directly from God. With this rule of conduct, all scruples will be wiped away, and one avoids wasting time trying to look for the origin of the inspirations of the soul. Now then, the direction of one's confessor or spiritual director must be followed before the message of any supposed private revelation. It does not matter how good or noble the revelation may be, all things must be subordinated to obedience to one's confessor. If the revelation comes from a demon, one of 2 things will occur. It will be in conflict with the direction of one's confessor, or it will soon stop leading one to good and begin inciting one toward evil. But if the revelation truly is from God, there will be no conflict between the revelation and the direction of one's spiritual director, because obedience to the spiritual director is obedience to God. We should always remember the maxim, obey always as long as it is not a sin. Even mystics are not free from obedience to spiritual direction. They should never trust their own judgment as to the authenticity of a vision or locution. In fact, a mystic is more subject to obedience because of the danger of falling into pride. If he is not careful, what happened to the devil can happen to him. Pride can corrupt the gift he has received. According to Father Fortea, he has a special knowledge of this matter because, many years ago, he was chosen to be the spiritual director of a soul who was granted some extraordinary gifts. There was no doubt as to the veracity of these gifts, as he put them to the test on several occasions. But little by little, this person began not to heed his counsels. The person thought himself to be so advanced in perfection that he could be guided directly by the Holy Spirit. Upon seeing that a terrible pride was appearing on the horizon, Father Fortea's counsels became orders. But the person chose to follow his own inspirations more than what Father Fortea said. Gradually, over the next few years, he could see that the person was becoming more and more proud. Finally, Father Fortea gave him an ultimatum. Obey his direction, or he would no longer be the person's spiritual director. In the end, he chose his own way, which, according to him, was that of the Holy Spirit. A year later, Father Fortea found out from friends that he had fallen into a life of grave sin and had lost all the spiritual gifts Father Fortea had witnessed. This terrible story serves as a reminder that, on the road to holiness, there are many who choose to remain in the gutter and whose names we will never know. And for the second question and answer that I'd like to share here is this. What form do demons take when they appear to people? And Father Fortea explained, as purely spiritual beings, demons do not have a determined visible form. As such, if they show themselves in a visible way, they can adopt any form they wish. Any human form, however beautiful, is within their power. They could appear as a known priest, as a confessor, or even as the Holy Father. Of course, the appearance of a demon is an extraordinary event. God does not ordinarily permit them to make themselves visible or to appear in any way they would choose. He only allows them to appear in a certain determined way to make it clear to us that it is actually a demon we are seeing. Demons are permitted to appear as moving shadows, as monstrous freaks, or as very black little men. The appearance of demons as little dark men appears repeatedly in Christian literature. And when the Bible speaks of the devil as a serpent or a dragon, it is saying that he has the fierce, monstrous, poisonous, and astute character of these beings. In no way, though, does the devil truly look like a dragon or serpent. He continues to be a beautiful angel by nature, even though he is completely repugnant morally. He has suffered deformation only in his person, not in his nature. Given that these 2 things are inseparable, he really is a monster, a deformed being, someone that causes repugnance and aversion. And the third question and answer here is, I think, very useful for everyone to know. What can be done to counteract a curse? And here's Father Fortea's answer. Though it is often impossible to know for sure that a curse is present, what can a person do if he strongly suspects a curse has been done against him? If he is truly under a curse, the only way to remove it is to do just the opposite. In other words, if a person has invoked a demon to do evil, then one has to invoke God to protect, help, and bless him. Good is always stronger than evil. When people come to his parish saying that they are suffering from a curse, he tells them that it is impossible to prove demonic causality except in rare cases. But if they really suffer from a curse, the only remedy is to do the following: pray the rosary, read the Bible, speak with God every day, attend Mass frequently, even daily, place a blessed crucifix and an image of the Blessed Virgin Mary in one's house, and make the sign of the cross with holy water daily. If the evil a person is suffering is from a demon, it will go away as a result of these devotions. If nothing changes, however, then the evil the person is suffering is not caused by a curse. Also, if a priest is an exorcist and suspects a curse, he can pray a prayer of deliverance, and this will remedy the situation. On some occasions, though, a demon causes the evil sickness, for example, and departs. In these cases, the person's medical problems are the result of a curse, but the exorcist sees that there is no demonic influence remaining. The person's illness, then, is like any other sickness and needs to be cured by medical treatment. There is no further need for supernatural remedies. And for the last question here is this: are curses really effective? Well, according to Father Fortea, many people ask him if curses are truly effective. And the first thing that has to be said is that whoever does the curse, as well as the person who may have asked for the curse to be done, will be the first one affected by the demonic. Without a doubt, they will suffer some type of demonic influence, possession, or sickness. The evil they wish on another will come back to them. A demon is never invoked in vain, but is a curse effective against the person to whom it is directed. This depends on the will of God. That is to say, it is the same as with accidents, illnesses, or misfortunes. During our time on earth, God allows us to experience both good and evil because this life is a period of trial, of purification. Of course, the person who prays and lives in God's grace is protected. The more one prays and lives a spiritual life, the more one is protected. And so how can we know if someone is the victim of a curse? In most cases, there is no way of knowing since demonic action is invisible. It is only certain in the cases of possession or demonic influence in which visible signs are evident to the exorcist. It is also possible to deduce that a particular evil is the fruit of a curse when this evil is accompanied by preternatural evil events. But apart from external evidence of the action of demons, one can never know if something comes from natural causes or not. Well then, those are the questions that people asked Father Fortea before, and hopefully you've learned a lot from his answers. There's just one last clip that I'd like to share here with all of you, which is from Father Carlos Martins. But before we get to that clip, I'd just like to ask all of us to continue praying for the souls of all who have been murdered before. I was in the middle of my video editing and then took a rest for a while and look at what's going on at Twitter, and I came across a post on the Chris Watts family murder. This particular case has been haunting me ever since I first read about it, and in my heart I was thinking what kind of a father would do such a horrible thing to his pregnant wife and kids. And apparently, according to the author who interviewed Chris in prison, she said that while interviewing Watts, she described how his eyes would turn black when he spoke about the killings. He just would get a different look on his face, and he talked about it so not like going down to get a cup of coffee. So let's continue to pray for the wife and kids, and even pray for Chris' repentance.
Say hi, Cece. Say hi, Bells.
Hi, Bill.
No, you gotta say hi.
Hi.
Anyway, here's the clip of Father Carlos Martins that I talked about earlier.
Job has just challenged God in the sense of he's asking, demanding why these things are happening to him, why misfortune is falling to him. And in doing so, when we question God, questioning God in terms of a challenge, not just questioning in terms of, well, I just don't know the answer, but a questioning that is a challenge, right? Why are you doing this? I can do it better. You're doing something that is beneath you or something that shouldn't be, something that is unbecoming of your divine nature as I judge it. And so that is the point. There's a judgment being placed on God. So what we have is a response from God where he challenges Job back, saying, hey, where were you when I fixed the waters above the earth? And I said to the mighty waves, you will go this far and no further. So the ancients had this belief, and this is not shoddy thinking by any means, that above the sky were great waters, like a copious amount of water, and this is where rain comes from, and this is the water that comes then and then waters the earth. The rain has to come from somewhere, and the advance of technology and science has given us a different understanding. But the thinking of the ancients was not shy. This was not stupid thinking. Water comes from the sky. There has to be a source of water in the sky, and the source of water is something that was put there by God, and he controls it. We have Jesus getting up and calming the storm. The storm poses no threat to him. He's not even afraid during it. His apostles, his disciples are afraid, as they're traveling on the water. So much so that they wake him up and they say, "Do you not care that we're about to die? That the waters are going to engulf us?" And so he gives out a yawn, so to speak. The storm was untroubling to him. He just gets up and says, "Peace, be still." Boom, and nature obeys. But there's more than just a power over nature here, because the ancients knew that God has power over nature, or that more surprising to them that Jesus can calm the power of nature is the fact he can calm the power of the evil one, of the enemy, because in their notion, in their understanding, when there is a storm, that is caused by the evil one. That is a perversion of nature. It's a manipulation. It's a display of demonic power. And so it isn't just the fact that he's given a command and nature has responded. For example, as if he were to say, "Hey, there's a crazy drought happening here. I command it to rain." Boom, and then rain falls. That would be power over nature. But what he does is he takes that perversion, that demonic activity, if you will, and he orders it to stop. And so for them, it's, my gosh, who is this that commands even the wind and storms to obey, right? And so that shows more than just a power over the physicality of nature. It is a power over the spiritual realm as well. So this is something that has never been done by any prophet. Elijah closed the skies and made the rain stop, and then opened the skies and made it rain. He showed an anointing, a power over nature. But Christ shows that he has it over supernature.
Well then, we're almost at the end of our video. And before we get to the end, I'd just like to let you know that if you're in Texas area, you might want to try out this homemade authentic Mexican salsas by one of our most active members on this channel. This is not a paid post. I'm just happy to spread the word about this to help a brother out. So if you'd like to try these out, check them out here. And if any of you'd like me to help you out with anything, to share what you do with the rest of the community members here, please don't hesitate to reach out to me through email. I'm more than happy to help out. Anyway, if you'd like to support our works, and if you like what we're doing, I left a link to our PayPal donation in the description box below, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contribution, and prayers. And until the next one, stay safe, stay healthy, and may God bless you.
So, I went to the fridge, and I opened up the meat drawer. You know what the meat drawer is, right?
Yeah? What was in there?
Well, I'll tell you what was in there. You know that bacon that's like maple? It's got maple flavor.
The maple kind, yeah?
Yeah, so
Yeah?
I took that out, and I thought,
Yeah?
I know who would like that. Me! So I ate it.
Oh, no. You're kidding me.
Nope. Not kidding.